Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
Cuba calls U.S. nuclear submarine in Guantanamo Bay provocative escalation. This is kind of interesting because Cuba hasn't said ish, and now they are coming out and saying that we are also provoking them. We are in the ultimate setup for World War III, in my opinion. Some call anyone who says that World War III has already started or it's going to start a fearmonger, somebody who's trying to scare people. Here, we're not scared at Marfoogle News because we've been talking about this for 5 years. We've seen this coming a million miles away. And now, of course, all of the axes are basically forming. The sides are forming, and now all of the preemptive events that have preceded almost every other world war are now happening again. It says that, of course, Cuba calls this move a provocative one. Cuban authorities on Tuesday denounced the presence of a nuclear-powered submarine at the U.S. military base at Guantanamo Bay as a provocative escalation of tensions weeks after Washington alleged that there was a Chinese spy base on the island, which I believe there is a spy base, and they've even admitted that since 2019, but they're talking about even putting a training base on Cuba. Also, Russia, of course, has been accused of having some sort of surveillance bay there as well, but that very well could have actually been China in the whole time. It says the presence of a nuclear submarine there is this moment makes it an imperative to wonder what the military reason is behind this action in this peaceful region of the world. Cuba's foreign ministry said in a statement, Washington did not confirm that there was a submarine at the naval base. But there has been submarines moving all around the world, and we've, of course, covered many of the times where they have popped up randomly at different locations, kind of like peekaboo, we're here, and we're not afraid of you. So we're going to talk about this and much, much more tonight. There is a lot of current events that we need to go over, so stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, remember to always go over to our website. You'll find a bibliography for all of our sources. Every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we have is always added here. In fact, we do this before every show, and it is all altered live. So if there is breaking news, it will be added into tonight's show. And if you see something, well, we are on live. So if you do see some breaking news that we should be talking about, make sure to put it into the chat. Also, we will be talking about later on, of course, what's going to be happening in the next couple weeks. Very exciting stuff happening. So again, stay tuned. We will talk about all of that in a moment. Also, when you get to the very bottom of today's thumbnail and on today's page, you will actually find that there is a whole other section called web content or overflow. This is all the stuff that could not fit into a 2-hour time period, so make sure to stay until the end. We'll talk about all of that as well. And then, of course, you can go to marfooglenews.com/friends and find all of our wonderful mods. The mods that are in the house already, thank you. I just talked to Aaliyah a few minutes ago. In fact, tonight she's getting ready to see the possible auroras down in California. I did not realize that that they may even see them down that far. I am in Washington, so I should be able to see some of these crazy auroras if they happen. But unfortunately, I'm way too close to the city, so I don't get to see a lot of these cosmic events that happen. Are you going have you or are you going to ever gone out to see a cosmic event? Have you ever drove hours to see one? I know several people that are going to try for different events, including the upcoming asteroid shower or meteor shower. So let me know. And let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, Dex, I've been covering this stuff for like 6 years. You've been with me for like 4. I have not heard them talk about it. I don't think we've really covered Cuba saying anything, and now they're coming out and saying provocative moves. Like, are we going to see a bunch of different statements from Cuba now?
Wow, they can make the statements. I don't know what they could do. Throw some rocks at us, but it's not like they're a stronghold over there, in my opinion. But it's also odd. I've never really heard of a sub. I mean, maybe they brought subs into Guantanamo before. I'm just never heard of it. It seems like an odd position, but if that's what they did, then and we don't talk about it. We're not going to admit it, which is interesting because some of the other ones we admit, like when we want to show the presence of the sub in the Mediterranean or somewhere else, they'll pop them up and load a VIP onto it to have a tour and unload them. But they know that by doing that, they're allowing everyone to see the position and give away that position, but they do that intentionally. So yeah, this time we didn't acknowledge it, but it and some are saying maybe it didn't even happen. They're just making this up to sort of distract and help, with the problems they're having in their own country, getting, their population, in line with their leadership.
Yeah, and we talked about it last year or the year before. They had that whole thing where they essentially shut off the internet to everybody in Cuba. That's when we started talking about the Operation Starfall thing that went into place, where they were going to send up balloons, atmospheric balloons with satellites that could give internet access to whoever they're above. They talked about that specifically with Cuba in mind because that happened then. But that was actually a global thing. That was something for any country that ends up having internet shut off by a so-called dictator or whatever. And I say so-called because there's a lot of other countries they've mentioned that they might use it for, which again, some of them, we've even talked about France recently because France actually considered turning off different social medias and things like this for protest reasons. We saw, of course, Canada shut down bank accounts and things. So, because of different protests and things and freeze accounts, which obviously many people had a problem with. We're like heading into this era where they want ultimate control. And by they, I mean, whoever is at the very, very top, they are trying to connect all of the countries of the world. They're trying to make it basically get all of the countries' governments under one umbrella. I mean, it's pretty simple to see. They actually have plans out in the open about basically resetting everything. So I don't know why that is still considered like, fringe. But either way, and then we have Bulgaria, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. Bulgaria apologizes to China for listing Taiwan as a country after online backlash. I am so sick of seeing these headlines. Again, like, even if you do believe that Taiwan is going to be a part of China or is part of China, why would you have this serious of a reaction if somebody says it's a country? We actually saw John Cena grovel and essentially beg for forgiveness and saying, I'm so sorry. The people of China are great, and Taiwan is, it was absolutely pathetic. And he was doing that because Fast and the Furious 9, I think, was coming out. I think it was Fast and Furious 9 or Fast and Furious 8, whichever one it was. I think it was the last one. And I believe there were threats to essentially block that from all of China, which would be $1 billion out of the box office or whatever amount of money that it was. And they can block films, they can block sports, they can block all sorts of things if those parties say something that they don't like, if they're too patriotic or whatever else. But essentially, he begged for forgiveness. What was his crime? He essentially said that Taiwan was a country. That's it. That's the only crime you have to commit to have your stuff blocked there. It says Bulgari has become the latest international brand to apologize to China after listing Taiwan as a country on its website. It says that China claims self-ruled Taiwan as its territory, and both the government and Chinese internet users have a history of scolding and boycotting international brands that have referred to Taiwan as a separate country. Late Tuesday, Bulgari posted an apology on Weibo, China's version of Twitter, saying it steadfastly and always respected China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, basically bowing down to them because Bulgari, and I swear it was always spelled different. Dex, isn't Bulgari the very fancy
the Italian brand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever they be, whatever brand, you can insert brand or NBA player here, or LeBron James, or any of these people that have basically bowed down and said sorry, or very few have not. And it's like the only crime that any of these people are saying is that it's a country, or listing it as a country. Like, this is absolutely absurd.
And in my opinion, this is, and I didn't see where this happened, but my assumption is it's a form. Like, you're filling out a form. Where are you from? What's your name, address, city, state, zip, country. And because they list Taiwan there, boom, they get hit. And by the way, the apology isn't good enough. They're saying, hey, you came over to our network and our social media and apologized, but you made the error on your main website. You should put the apology out to the rest of the world to see. That's what they're saying. And by the way, this is also now adds Valentino, Calvin Klein, Coach, Zara, and Delta Airlines that have all apologized to China for listing Taiwan as a country on their webpage probably for a form, like I just said.
And by the way, this is like, so yeah, they said it on Weibo. You don't hear about this anywhere else besides, the article that's covering it, because now China's making a big deal out of it. But on Weibo, how many Americans go on Weibo, right? Unless they're from China and have access to it. But as far as this goes, so now they're probably going to come out on Twitter or something or somewhere else, and they're going to say it again. And this is just insane. It's absolutely insane that people do not see this right in front of their face, how much power this country has over media, over brands, over corporate America, over everything, even land and real estate, and pretty much every place. It is the reason anybody who speaks against it is they're not they're not number one people. They're not in that top 1% of people that succeed. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and let's face it, they're not necessarily bowing down to China. They're in a position that China is embedded into their business. Okay, so think about this. A lot of these people, that I don't know the brand, I don't know what they make, but I got a sneaking suspicion a lot of it is manufactured in China. So what are they going to do? Or they have a huge sales funnel in China, so they make a ton of money over there. So yes, they're bowing down, but it's not because they philosophically agree with it. They're doing it for money, just like John Cena or anyone else. It's about the money, and it's not just about the money. It's about the embeddedness of the manufacturing and what is what is required. It's just, look at Apple. I mean, if China shut down Apple tomorrow, Apple, the largest company in the world right now, would be out of business, so to speak. And so what are they going to do? They're going to do what they can do to keep their business running. So it's unfortunate that this powerhouse of China is so ingrained in everything now around the world that they can wield the power to make people bow down and bend the knee to them and say, oh, I'm so sorry.
Most people heard about the Tom Cruise thing. Tom Cruise at one point, or one of the people in the new Maverick Top Gun, that movie, on one of the jackets, there's a patch that shows the Taiwan flag, right? that was asked to be removed from the movie. This is how little of a thing that they pay attention to. Well, I mean, I guess it's not little because it was this huge box office hit. Millions of people saw it. It's a very influential film at that. But the patch, this big investment group that was directly tied to China said, hey, we're going to pull our funding and our investment if you do not remove that. And they did not bow down to that, which I absolutely love. And that's the only reason we heard about it. We don't hear about this more often than we do. The only time we really hear about it is if it's a really, really big name and you get a hold of the apology or they are forced to apologize in public. LeBron James, John Cena, just a couple. The brands, all of those brands have now apologized for claiming it's a country. The things that we've talked about before, like the new Spider-Man No Way Home film. If you've watched that film, and I don't think this is a spoiler at this point because it's been out a long time, the last 30 minutes are shot around the Statue of Liberty. And the Statue of Liberty scene is literally like 30 minutes or 25 minutes long. It is the very end. The investment group that was investing in that from China actually asked them, they said, hey, can you somehow green screen out the Statue of Liberty part? That is the part. They were on scaffolding around the Statue of Liberty. They were trying to get them to remove it digitally, CGI it out of the whole scene because it was too patriotic. That's absolute, and you guys know it. It's just insanity. Thank you, Sean Morgan. I am the Lord, and besides me is there no Savior. Isaiah 43:11. Hey, thank you, Sean. Thank you for your massive support, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you. And then Moonman, thank you for subscribing. OLA, thank you for subscribing and becoming a member. I appreciate that. And then Merlin, thank you for being the last one out, along with Miss Dragon and Travel with Dan. Yesterday, B-Real Beast says, God bless. Hey, thank you, B-Real. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you guys for supporting our independent show. I appreciate you, and thank you every single day. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you, guys. And then Roger Langell, Langau, I think that's how I said it. Thank you so much for subscribing. As always, if you subscribe during the show, I will give you a shout out. By the way, Dex, go ahead. It sounded like you wanted to put.
I'm just going to add one quick last point on this before we move on. Let's not forget the Pentagon came out and said, hey, we're not going to help Hollywood if you kowtow to China. And that was specifically because of the Maverick movie, the Top Gun movie. And, I think that we just didn't know that was coming out, but I have a sneaking suspicion that was the leverage that allowed that movie to say, you know what, we're not going to kowtow to them because the Pentagon has given us so much assistance. Because if you look at that movie, they are in it a lot. They leveraged a lot of that equipment, a lot of flight times, et cetera. So yeah, one more point from the Pentagon on that one.
Yeah, because the jets and everything in Top Gun, those were not CGI. Those were real jets. They did a lot of the shots in the behind the scenes. You see how much of the real Air Force they actually used in all of that. In fact, the whole plot of that movie is basically true. They're saying that they're going to be soon replaced. These top pilots are going to be replaced by AI, and it's pretty crazy because it's happening in real time. And then let's see here. I just want to point out though, have you guys noticed this? And I've noticed it over the last 5 years. The sun today, I was especially out in the sun. There was no avoiding it, but today, every single time I'm out in the sun now, it just seems like the sun is so much more powerful. It used to be you could sit out for 10, 15 minutes and no problem. It seems like now you go out for 2 minutes and it burns you. Dex, is there anything to back that up? I know they said some solar stuff was going on. We may have a weak magnetic field. Is that why? Is that why we actually the sun? It sounds stupid, but it feels hotter. It burns you immediately.
The only correlation to that would be check your UV index, in your town for the day and see if it's changed.
So I heard that ours was pretty high here in Washington, but have you guys noticed that, or am I crazy? And I feel like my brain is burnt. not to mention just like every time I go out in the sun now, it's totally different. I actually have kind of a genetic makeup where I don't really burn. I get tan because of what my cultural background is, but I have been getting burned like several times in the last couple of years, and I never get burned. It just seems you can feel it. It's just insane. I'm sure that some of you have some theories, so let me know in the comments down below, and let me know, do you feel it, or am I just nuts? All right, and then let's see here. Did want to go over to the chat for a second. Thank you, Chance Paladin, Kimbria, Scooby Doo Right, Raging Boomer, one on B. Thank you. And then we have Sarah Sandy says it is intense in the sun now. French Film says you must be part Mexican. Kind of Portuguese. Yes, very noticeable, says Miss Alice. There's so many people that agree. Okay, I'm so glad that I'm not just. I mean, it's something that's not measurable. I guess it is measurable, but it seems like you can't really measure a feeling. It just feels different now. And then China sends large group of warplanes and Navy ships towards Taiwan in a forceful display. As far as this is from the Associated Press, there have been many moves made by China now, and it says that China sent Navy ships and a large group of warplanes, including fighter jets and bombers, towards Taiwan over 2 days. The island's defense ministry said on Wednesday before its annual military exercises aimed at defending itself against a possible invasion. The Chinese People's Liberation Army sent 38 warplanes and 9 Navy vessels around Taiwan between 6 a.m. Tuesday and 6 a.m. Wednesday. From Wednesday morning until noontime, the military flew another 30 planes, among which included the J-10 and J-16 fighters. Of these, 32 crossed the midline of the Taiwan Strait, which we actually covered kind of the first time that happened. It was the first time that they actually sent planes over that midline, and then it just kept going up from there, and now it's just like a daily occurrence almost. And of the 32 that crossed that midline of the Taiwan Strait, an unofficial boundary that had been considered a buffer between the island and the mainland, later on Wednesday, another 23 planes crossed the midline. So they are going. By the way, this is totally unrelated, but they had kind of a picture in here. That's why I thought it was always spelled weird, the V instead of the U, or whatever kind of U that is. But as far as China and sending these warships, it's once again a huge movement of military, and it's like they're always constantly testing Taiwan's responses. Dex, we've talked about how they're like basically testing to see every angle of the island. And if you look at the maps of where they have done this, they're essentially testing what Taiwan is going to do. What's crazy, though, is how after Anthony Blinken that went there and basically said, we support one China. So nobody really knows now if we are actually going to step in. Or is that why we are actually bringing chips and we're creating it here? Because we're going to let them have Taiwan. One thing I know for sure is Japan is saying that they won't. So it seems like this is not going in a good direction.
Yes, I agree. And specifically, I think maybe Taiwan should be saying thanks because if they're about to kick off their drills about how to defend itself against a possible invasion, and China says, "Hey, we're going to send everything at you for a day or two," and at least they can see what it's going to look like, and it'll help them in the preparation, which happens the following days. So, on one hand, this could be a gift, but yes, this is the normalization, as they keep referring to it, normalizing the effects of them crossing the median line, of them China sending ships, sending planes, doing all sorts of tactics to constantly bombard Taiwan with this notion that they're there. We're right here. We're crossing over. Now you have to react. How are you going to react? Is this the real time, or is this, just another drill? And that type of normalization will, it will stress Taiwan out eventually. It will give intel to China. It will give practice also to Taiwan. But yeah, certainly it's not a typical tactic you see with all the other countries around the world. It's just what China is doing to Taiwan because they want that country back or they want that land and they want to take control of it.
None of us really know. The one thing that we can focus on is well, I guess it's more of I know that many of you agree with me as far as we don't all have the answers to what is happening right now, but we can for sure tell that something is definitely in the works right now for something big. And everybody says, something big is coming. What is that something big? I do not, I think that it is absolutely World War III that is on the horizon, but everybody hears that and they hear end of the world or they hear nuclear apocalypse. This is a start, and we've already started it. You can see all of the financial changes that are happening right now, all of the law changes, all of the rule changes, and you see all of these countries around the world kind of getting in line with each other, including getting in line with countries like China. Look at France's move to raise the retirement age at the same time, virtually the same time that China does the same exact thing. And then, of course, after Xi visits France, all of a sudden, Macron is going to say that he's going to distance himself from the U.S. You see moves in Cuba. You see moves in North Korea. You see moves in Japan. You see moves in, of course, Australia. We're giving them free submarines, essentially, with the AUKUS, giving them all the plans because we're about to beef up everything. At the same time, China is now doing the Belt and Road or all around the world, and they're beefing up their military. They're growing their military. In a matter of months, they're making as many ships as the entire British Navy. So, like, this is getting out of hand. At this point, people need to be completely focused on being aware of what's around them, what's happening. There's nobody that can tell you the time or the day this is going to happen. And again, I don't think it's the rapture. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that this is going to pop off, and so many of the people that don't watch this show or don't follow this stuff closely are going to tell you that you're crazy for saying these things. But if you go down the list and if you've watched the show every day, then I would say that you didn't even have to watch my show, because it sounds weird to say, like, if you've watched my show, you would think this. But if you follow the 20 or 30 different pieces of information and actually question all of those, you start to see the pattern of mainstream media when they say something is coming. And then if you've followed for 5 or 6 years, you've seen which things that they say come true because you've followed through with that. That's why we archive everything on the website. And right now, there's no doubt in my brain that we're about to be in a massive, massive conflict. So all of those men and women serving are probably going to see some action. And will we see anything here in the United States? We may not. It might be somewhere else. But anybody that is in Europe, they are actually prepping right now. So I highly recommend, and I have to reiterate this, people need to have some sort of basic plan and a basic plan with their friends and family. Especially right now, people talk about it once and then they just kind of forget about it. You still have to keep the fire under your own feet to keep going and to keep prepping. Any prepper will tell you this because you get lax. You get you get a certain kind of level, and then you say it's okay. Look at what is happening right now. There are threats from every other corner, and you could be scared of that, or you could be prepared for that. And then we are going to be there as long as it takes. JB vows to stand by UKR. So first of all, he, by the way, JB, and I think is this the same one that JB says his name wrong? Or was that's later, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's the same article. It's just they update the same article, so it's dated. But yes, same
so
article.
they changed the title.
They changed the headline. They changed the title. Yeah.
So the original headline to this basically talked about how JB did a gaffe, and he kept calling.
No, that's the new headline.
That's the new headline.
Yeah, this is the same article, but the older headline, and I don't think they have the gaffe in here in the actual article. But if you go and click through to the real article, it's got the gaffe and it's got the headline now.
Okay, so check this out. So look at how they changed this. They took the gaffe out, and the gaffe kept calling Vladimir, which is a different spelling, kept calling him Vladimir, which is Putin. right? But so this is the Daily Mail. It says, we are going to be there as long as it takes. JB vows to stand by UKR, right? Go to the original. Look at this. The original. So they're updating it to take that out. Do you see how they do this? It says, you guys ask really insightful questions. Sarcastic JB says, 80. Ask press to leave after promising Zelensky he will keep sending billions to fund the war, calling him Vladimir and getting ushered off of stage. So they took that gaffe out. He continually called him Vladimir, which, again, most of us don't care if it's Vladimir or Vladimir, but it is a different spelling. It's an O instead of whatever. So basically kept gaffing his name, right? But I just think it's funny, not so much that he did it. There's gaffes every day, and most all of the presidents have gaffes, right? But how the media kind of curtails around him and it fixes that kind of stuff. Somebody probably asked, like, hey, can you take that out of the title? Or can you fix that? Or can you minimize that? Because we have an explanation of why it happened, right? It was because he just had a meeting with, and I'm just saying something that I could see Jean-Pierre saying, well, he had him fresh on his mind because he just dealt with a very top secret meeting on Vladimir. It's a very easy mistake we could all make. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I just love how they change stuff like that. It says that President JB vowed to stand by UKR as long as it takes, and he and fellow G7 leaders announced a new security deal for Kiev. It came just one day after Volodymyr Zelensky launched a social media tirade against his Western allies of what he called an absurd delay to setting out a pathway to his country's full membership of the NATO military alliance. It says, we're going to be there as long as it takes, JB said in a speech flanked by fellow leaders from the G7, a club of the world's richest economies that include Britain and France. It says, we are going to help Ukraine build a strong and capable defense across land, air, and sea, he added, insisting that the UKR military would be a force of the stability in the region. It's really, really hilarious here. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the irony and the sheer kind of like absolute stupidity of what Volodymyr said in just a bit. Basically, everybody's gonna roll their eyes here in just a second, but yeah, basically this is going to go on for a while. This isn't just gonna go away overnight, or if it does, we'll be sitting here whenever that happens and going, okay, what did they do when they were distracting us with this? Which, again, most of it is a big circus and a big distraction. Hey, Sasha Lamora, Zelensky dresses like Shitako. Yeah, well, like we talked about this last week, everything is on purpose. The reason why he always wears a regular green shirt, he doesn't wear suits when he goes to other countries, even if he's in a 5-star hotel spending an entire week. This is what is so stupid that people don't realize they're getting manipulated psychologically. He spent like 2 weeks in fancy 5-star hotels, but yet he doesn't put a suit on for any of the black tie dinners that he went to. None of that. He wears his green shirt because when you take pictures of him, everybody's got to think this guy's on the front line. Early in the war, they essentially had him popping out of a bunker saying, I'm on the front lines, I'm here with my soldiers, that kind of thing. They want you to mentally get that picture into your head that he's always right there. Back when everybody had him as their Facebook profile pic and all of that, it's all manipulation. And it doesn't matter if you support UK or if you don't, you should realize when you are being manipulated. Optics, exactly. Special sauce. Tyrone aside says World War III will not be Armageddon, and current trajectory we are on is not World War III. We are headed towards the first civil world war, which is truly Armageddon. Oh, so you say it's essentially worse. UKR is the biggest laundry in the world. Yeah, there's lots of dirty laundry. Thank you, Nana of Montana. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for continuing to support our channel. And along with Kagan's Looking Glass says, one of these days I want to call in and tell you my alien story. I've done a video on it, but want to share it with the Foogle fam. By the way, God's Children is not for sale. See you around. You and Dex keep up the good work. Thank you, Kagan's Looking Glass, and thank you, Nana of Montana. And then Bastion says, wrote a second essay called The Inevitable War. First response I got, well done. War is not inevitable. Keep prepping, everyone. Love you, Marf and Dex. I think it is at this point. I don't know why people think it's not. But I could see, everybody has their different opinions on it. I believe that there is no way around it at this point. They have gone way too far down the road not to do it. And then Linda Briggs and then Jerry Shirts 99 says, Marf, please, I'm in Naples, Florida and work outside for a living. But yes, it's hot as heck and our water temperatures are off the charts. 95-degree water. Oh, that's horrible. And then Craig Alicious, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Absolutely, Adam. It has been a sting. It has a sting to it now. Yeah, you can feel it under your actual skin, like it burns. And then Wages World says, wish it could be more. You guys deserve so much more. Wages, I hope since you're already a member that you can just use the free super chat thing that it does, because you don't have to support us financially, man. You helping the mods. So thank you. That shows what kind of guy you are. Thank you, Wages. And by the way, I forgot to call you last night, and I'm sorry. But again, you guys don't have to super chat, especially mods. Have to figure out a way that you have like some side app that you guys could do one so I could shout it out without having to do a super chat. Thank you guys for modding. You guys always give people links and hook people up with all of the information. You guys are always super helpful. Along with Ilea, Chance has been a rock star. Same with Jammer. You guys have been at almost every single show, so thank you so much. And then the war effort in shambles as hawks turn on each other at NATO summit. Before we go into that, just want to remind you guys, when you go through affiliates like EMP Shield, you are supporting our independent channel at the same time as protecting yourself. This, I do believe that if everyone had EMP Shield on their vehicles and on their houses, then the entire country would be super solid in any kind of EMP or solar event. Right now, we are heading into super crazy, unpredictable solar events. There may be, auroras down in California, for gosh sakes. So if you do want to end up protecting your vehicles, your vans, your RVs, your boats, and anything else that you basically want to keep running after an EMP strike or multiple EMP strikes, or even a Carrington-level event from the sun, then you would want to get an EMP shield on it. They're super easy to put in, especially in the car version. The car version, you do the red to the red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and then green to ground. So you essentially just nail it into the side of a frame somewhere, and boom, you're done. That's how easy that is, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. So super, super easy, super, super effective. It's the same company that's been outfitting agencies like DHS, DOD, and now the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. They are doing really, really big things. Again, make sure to go check it out, marfuglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. Not only will you give us credit and give us a small commission, but you'll also be, again, getting a huge discount, $50 off per device, and you'll be getting an extra 10% off. These affiliates make, I know that nobody likes watching Channel 9 and the ad breaks or the, buy 5 books and whatever and support. But that's kind of where it's come down to with independent media. And again, if you end up watching Fox or MSNBC, whatever it may be, it's the same thing. It's just put somewhere else. We are independent. I would hope that you guys would be rooting for us. Even if you can't support us through these things, share our stuff out, whatever else, that is more appreciated. But as far as these goes, even if you can be patient, if you can't support and be patient through ads like this, it does help us a lot, and understand that it helps support us, our families, and the work we put into the show. So I really do appreciate everybody that's even patient. Everybody understands, or most people understand why we have to do it. But the affiliates that we have, not only do we believe will save lives, will make a life better or make it more comfortable during a disaster. So thank you guys for being patient. And I know nobody likes ads or affiliates, but if it is something that is useful, then I think it's a lot better. So thank you. Dex, do you want to go over the quote, war effort in shambles as hawks turn on each other at NATO summit?
So we kind of called this yesterday when we were just talking about the rants that he was doing, that Zelensky was doing in his Twitter going into the meeting. We're like, yeah, he's not going to have fun at dinner. And then we were reported that the current prez wasn't even at dinner. But then I think they even this article is comparing it to him throwing a tantrum. I said he was throwing his toys out of the playpen. But yes, apparently there's a picture, and we'll scroll down to it later in the article. There's a photograph that sort of tells the dinner story, and it's been all over social media. And it's him standing there with all these people dressed to the nines, but everybody's got their backs to him. He's all alone. And it wasn't even that, even though President JB went back to his hotel and didn't even go to dinner, according to other people, and it's being written by Bloomberg, he actually had a clear message for Zelensky, and he told them, somebody that was present, they said, you have to cool down and look at the full package, and was basically telling him, hey, back off. You're pissing off everyone here, and we're all the ones that are supporting you. So it's kind of crazy. You don't go into the, you don't walk into the boardroom with a whole bunch of people that have been financing everything that you're doing, and all you do is start yelling at them and expect them to keep making you happy and giving you money and funds, or in this case, weapons and supplies. So
I'm surprised they haven't said that this is an AI generated photo or something. This guy looks like a psycho. If you look at that, it looks like he's about to beat up the photographer or something. Like somebody caught, and just to point out, like purely whoever that person is, before, actor, whatever. I just think it's funny because he's like super looking like, I'm gonna beat you up, in his all green suit, and he's literally a foot shorter than everyone there. There is a like normal sized woman that's like a foot and a half taller than him. How small is he? Does anybody know his real height? I thought somebody said he was like 5'6". Nothing against short people, but he really looks tiny, like really tiny.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that he's sitting on a step below all of them.
Oh,
but nobody's
okay.
engaging him. So yeah, he does look short because he's down on a step. But the short guy shouldn't be down on a step when everybody's above him, right? He should be on the top step, like getting his head as high as he can. But yeah, there's numerous photos. This is one angle where he just happened to have that look on his face.
That's why he's mad.
There's a few other photos that show him standing there with a smile on his face, but still being ignored, or at least not being the center of attention.
Maybe he got him in mid sniff or something. I don't know. The nostrils are flared. He looks like a pit bull right there. Yeah. Yeah, the article actually, the way it is, it didn't load, but I can pop open the regular one. That's funny. I didn't notice the step, so I'm like, gosh, he's just like really tiny today. Tiny Tim there.
I think there's a Babylon Bee tweet in there. If you open that one, you'll see the picture.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, he's still there's still. These are he's like 3 or 4 inches. Well, they're wearing high heels. But there's what's his face? There's Macron. Did you see that? Macron is in this picture. Macron's standing there all the way to the left. In fact, there's some big names in there. That's the finance minister. That dude, I want to say that woman is one of the not the minister, not Congress, whatever the British version, Parliament woman. We've covered her a few times.
He is totally a fish out of water, is he not?
A what?
Yeah, he's totally fish out of water in that scene. I mean, he's just like the oddball. He doesn't fit. Nobody wants to talk to him. He's standing all alone.
Well, it's a picture. It's 2 seconds later. He could be in the middle. But why is he wearing this outfit? He's not on the front lines. He's at a black. I just talked about this. Like, he's always wearing these green suits. Like, I'm on the front lines. It's part of his image. I mean,
these are the leaders of the world, and he's standing there wearing, hiking boots and khakis.
The thing is all of these guys are laughing at him. Like, they know. I'm sure there's at least somebody that they brought as a guest, somebody that, some parliament person brought as a guest, and they're like, why does he always wear, why isn't he dressed up? Oh, it's part of the image. It's all part of it, It's so he looks like he's on the front lines. It's just since they're up there, they know this stuff. Regular people, though, what's so funny is they do this because they do believe, they thoroughly believe that 99% of people are just stupid. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that just believe things by what they see. It, I wonder where that has put it, though. Like, what does that actually do to his reputation that he's always worn just regular clothes, right? It's just like how you see the millionaires, right? The guy that ripped off millions of dollars from or billions of dollars, whatever it was, the guy from the crypto scam. What Sam Altman or not? Who was the guy? That's the recent huge thing that happened.
Oh, Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried. He, of course, they showed pictures of him and videos, and they're like, "What do you drive?" He goes, "Oh, that old Toyota over there." Even though he had actual like sports cars and all of this, to the public, they wanted him to think that he's just this like nerdy genius that drives a Toyota. Guess who else did that back in the day? Bill Gates had numerous articles. When I was small, I remember being young and hearing about, because he was just he hit like $50 million as, I swear, I think it was 50 million, like regular million was his actual net worth. And I remember an article about it and saying that he was never chauffeured around, that he would drive like normal cars, like a normal Jeep or this or that. And I remember actually that made an imprint on me, like, wow, that's really cool. Like, this guy's a cool person, thinking he's not a stuck up rich person, because I'm from Seattle and he literally, I've drove by his house, not on purpose, but he literally lives in Medina or one of his places. And it's like everybody here knows about Bill Gates, right? Everybody in the world now knows. But back then, it was only the local people that really knew. And it's just like, why did they do that? It's all manipulation. It's all reputation kind of thing. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I'm debating in my mind, is he better or worse dresser than Fetterman? Fetterman I've seen in a suit, but Fetterman, man, he's like frumpy all the time. Even in a suit, he can look frumpy. But we've seen Fetterman on stage next to suits and like just an absolute ratty looking hoodie. So I don't know which one's worse at dressing, Zelensky or Fetterman.
Well, Fetterman will wear basketball shorts and doesn't he wear like basketball shoes and stuff? But
yeah, and then a hoodie.
Yeah,
and it's like a hoodie that's like twice the size of him.
So on the lower levels of stuff, you think, because there have been people I've talked to in Fugle fam that have been, mayor of their town or governor of a small town, right, or a smaller state, and then a mayor of smaller towns. It's not as hard to get into like the merit, but these people are never going to go up and end up being in the circuit of like, actual Congress or anything else. They're the mayor of the town they're voted in. So I think that the lower end of being voted into, local office, that's actually more accomplished or more. I think that a lot more people have regular faith in that. And somebody like Fetterman could probably get, they get support for that. People are done with politicians. They don't want politicians. They want regular people. Because these people that are complaining that they can't wear their $12,000 dress to Congress, like that's a representative of the people. And I don't know who the heck that is representing, because none of us wear $12,000 suits or $12,000 dresses and then sitting there complaining about it because you can't wear your $12,000 as much as a Toyota dress to work. And you're pissed off because that's not a representative of the people. Fetterman, whichever side you're on, at least people can go, well, that guy's a normal guy. Blue Boy 1960, or at least that's what they're telling, that's what the impression is. Blue Boy 1968 Chapel, thank you, says, makes you wonder if Zelensky is sitting at the adults table or the kiddies table at the NATO function with like a little SpongeBob tablecloth. Somebody's got to make a meme. And then Bible Talk 777, time people realize this isn't some secular warfare going on. Anyone knows biblical prophecies knows that this is end times, not only by scripture, but by Holy Spirit in us. This is a spiritual war. Part of me, I do believe in end times, and I do believe in biblical end times. But I believe that there have been these wars before, and people didn't consider that tribulation, right? They didn't consider that, but when all that stuff went down, I don't think we're there yet. I think we are going to see World War III, and people assume, because that is assumed as like the end of the world, that there's pre-trib and post-trib and all that. I believe we will see World War III before a rapture or a biblical end of the world. But there are certainly a ton of crazy, crazy signs that if you look into it, even just a little bit on the surface, it is clearly there's a lot of the different signs that go into this being end times. I think we could have a whole debate show about that, and that would be actually kind of fun to have two people on the opposite ends of that. And then Bastion, thank you, and Bible Talk, and then thank you, of course, Nan of Montana and Kagan's Looking Glass. So Zelensky says that Ukrainian troops can defend NATO states, but on one condition. So this is the ironic, crazy part. And most people are going to roll their eyes at this. And if you didn't know about this already, people are really pissed off about this. People are ratioing this all over the place because he's essentially saying that, yeah, Ukrainian troops will defend NATO states on one condition. Dex, what is that condition?
That they become a member of NATO. This is the most ridiculous statement to put out there. If you ever want to just disenfranchise everybody that's been sending you money, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. So essentially, since they have basically given them their entire outfit, right? All of the infrastructure of the Ukrainian army is NATO. Their defenses, their tanks, their weapons, they're now going to have jets and things. They're going to have all sorts of stuff. Their rocket launchers, everything that they have essentially has been given them to by NATO at this point. All of the stuff they previously had is probably gone or just out the window. So what they have is hand-me-downs from NATO, and now they're saying, "Oh yeah, we'll defend you, and we'll come to your aid if they ever have to go to NATO, on one condition: you make us part of NATO." Now, some say, "Oh, well, that makes sense," but at the same time, you're literally saying only if you bring us into NATO. Well, NATO, bringing them into NATO is World War III. That's almost an instant. If they are in NATO and they're considered part of NATO, then if even 1 inch of NATO is trampled on, that's World War III. That's Article 5. So a lot of people have a huge problem with this. Nami, thank you for becoming a member. Says appreciate you guys and all you do. Thank you. Dex, go ahead.
Well, on multiple points here, he's trying to make it out like his military is so strong that we need him. Like, we need him to defend the NATO line. Like, oh my gosh, if we don't have Zelensky, we're going to fall apart. Wait, huh? I don't get it. Like, we're the whole reason you have anything going on is because the NATO countries and the US specifically, most of it, is giving you everything. The last thing you should be saying is, never mind the fact that you've helped me, I'm not going to help you. You should never make this statement, not publicly. Fine, behind closed doors in negotiation, yeah, say it all day long. Putting it out publicly, are you mad?
You mad, bro? It's just a... And I know that he... every day. Dex, why don't you cover the Russian spy chief? Says he held Ukraine call with CIA head. Well,
so the CIA head won't talk about this. All right, Burns won't talk about it. But apparently, there was a meeting with Naryinskin. I'm sure I'm butchering his name. Sorry, and Burns, head of our CIA, basically the equivalent to them over in Russia. They had this meeting Well, the Russian side has come out and said, yeah, we had the meeting. And guess what? We talked about, quote unquote, what to do with UKR. So there's not a lot more details that are going to come out of this meeting. But the interesting thing is that these two heads of the intelligence agencies are meeting to discuss what to do with UKR. What does that tell you? What do you think about when you hear that? I'm sure they didn't just get into the meeting and say, well, we're fighting for our side and you're fighting for your side. And we just no, there's probably a lot of collaboration of some sort or discussion on what they're going to do and planning here. Let's not kid ourselves. This kind of stuff goes on all the time. They did say that the main point of the meeting was to let them know that our CIA had nothing to do with the Wagner part. So that also came out. But of course, our side from the U.S. is not saying anything. We haven't released any information about that phone call or the meeting. Only the Russian side is reporting it into, I think it was TASS.
So,
but man, pretty interesting.
So just go down a side road here just for a second, a hypothetical. So if you are someone who believes, oh, well, they're all in on this together, right? They're all in a room high-fiving all of this, and secretly the CIA, the FSB, Mossad, all these agencies are working together. Very well could be true, right? Either way, even if they were, I think that people really just can't get it in through or even really see how all of these guys could be working together and still have a World War III. Well, who perishes in a World War III? Most definitely not the most important people. The most important people know where everything is. They know what's going on. They know where the strikes are going to take place. And especially if they're talking to each other and communicating with each other and all of this, they're not going to be affected by these conflicts. They'll be at one of their 55 homes that they own or something like that. Who will perish? Well, do you think that the very top elite people in the world really care about Joe Schmo or Stephanie Bethany? Stephanie Bethany? Stephanie Bethany? No, they don't. They don't care about any of that. And an entire World War III could go down. And not the end of the world, World War III, where millions of lives are lost. The military-industrial complex on all ends is going crazy. And just say, hypothetically, they are all working together. And then after the dust is settled, there's a restructure of power, the laws, everything else, and they've manipulated the people into a whole different system than what we had before. Basically, they restructured human civilization, and they did it with war. That's a possibility. And the reason why people think this, look at the thing that President Biden just did. He just sealed indefinitely. Did I talk to you about this? Indefinitely the rest of the JFK files, and said that they were sealing it because it was an issue of national security. How would something that happened 70 years ago still be an issue of national security to this day for people to know about what happened? And think about the implications there. Say CIA or say the U.S. government was involved. That would be the U.S. Gov taking out the head of the U.S. Gov. There are all sorts of things that tie into it, and it's like these things are happening all the time. And when we talk about 4D chess, I think people should realize that it's 4D chess. So if you're angry at something, if you're reacting to something, you think they're doing something stupid, they probably knew that you thought that that was going to be stupid. And they're actually gauging the reaction beforehand and before, and they're manipulating us at every step of the way. It's almost like those sci-fi shows where you're fighting somebody from the future and they know your every move. And in these movies, what they do in these movies where their enemy is in from the future, so they know exactly what you're going to do, they basically say that they're making actions and they just don't think about it. They go left, they go right, they do whatever. It's almost like we have to do that for them not to anticipate what we are actually doing. Just do something completely random. because they already know what's going to happen. That I don't know if I said that well enough to understand, but Dex, did I say that to the point? You know what I mean? Like where they have everything mapped out, and it looks like it's all going along this path, and there's no stopping it.
Well, and they're in control, and they control the narrative, they control the media, they control it all. And at the end of the day, if you believe that, and it's pretty believable, but if you believe that, then there's not we're sort of stuck. We're here, and we have to deal with it. Now, I think the best thing we can do is to open our eyes and try to educate ourselves about as much information as we can around these different topics, so that we can sort of read between the lines they want us to see and see the lines they don't want us to see.
And I think they don't care so much that but once you start organizing, once you start getting, actually organizing to do something back, that's when they step in. That's when I think they step in. Putin's ranting ally warns completely mad West is boosting the prospect of all-out global conflict. This is another thing that with these constant stories like this that makes me think that it's all a circus. That it's not about left versus right. It's not about U.S. versus Russia or U.S. versus China. That it's all part of a game plan that's just happening as it goes, right? Because they constantly say this. It's like every other day where they're saying that something is going to happen. What I do think, though, is yes, they're going to cry wolf until the sun goes down, but at one point we will have this massive event, the Fantastic Freddy or a Pearl Harbor 2.0 kind of thing that draws us into this thing. I'm less about afraid of an all nuclear exchange as I am about one event that brings both sides and everybody in. Everybody into it, like a Pearl Harbor 2.0. What do you guys think? Let's go over to the chat for a second. It says World War III is approaching. Putin's ranting ally warns completely mad West is boosting the prospect of an all-out global conflict with its military assistance for UKR. It's completely mad West risks a third world war by supporting Ukraine, the former Russian president claimed. This is, again, Dmitry Medvedev. The only reason I cover this is because it is, like Dex said the other day, it's something we definitely want to hear just in case, the 1%. But I'm pretty tired of Medvedev. But at the same time, this is the former leader of the Russian country. And he's still he's still ahead of the chairman of Russia's Security Council. Go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also a mouthpiece. So being that he's like the number 2 next to Putin, and he's also considered by many to be the one who would step in if Putin were to fall ill or perish, doesn't mean he would necessarily be the elected or full-time replacement, but he would probably be the one that steps in, and he might even be the one elected. But the point is, he's the spokesperson. He, as much as we don't like hearing him with his nonsense, he is being told to say this. This is in response to everything we just talked about a moment ago from the G7 and bumbling JB saying, we'll support you for as long as it takes. This is their response. It just happens to come from him. He's the one doing it.
And again, it could be all scripted. Who was that? Zinda? Thomas Zinda? Or Zorinda? I think that's how you say it. I totally agree with you. I think it's already started. We are getting prepared for war, or has the war already begun in our minds? Antonio and Naftali, like Thomas said, I think it's already started. I think it's really clear to see that this is already kind of played out. It's like halfway. I don't even think we're halfway there. I think we're 90% there, and we're waiting. I think we are waiting for a Pearl Harbor type event. I hope one doesn't happen. I'm not wishing for it. I'm sure, I know preppers, some of them are like, they're waiting for this to happen. They're so prepped up, they want it to happen. I think there are some people that legitimately want this to happen because they want to test themselves, or I don't. I'm not one of those people, but I do feel like, because I every time my power goes out, I get tested on something else. Like, I know I'm not ready for this, and I know many of you aren't either. Like, if we're all to be honest, even the people that I talk to that are super preppers, they find gaps every time there's an actual disaster. There's gaps in their stuff. Even these billionaires that have, pay millions of dollars for a prepper expert to come talk to them. The first questions out of their mouth are like, they've got a security team, they've got a bunker, they've got a missile silo with apartment buildings in it. They've got everything set up. Well, guess what they're thinking about? Well, if money collapses and money is not worth absolutely anything, how do I keep these 12 security guards I just hired? How do I even keep them? If money's not worth anything, why are they going to stay? Like, these is the question. It doesn't matter how high you get up on the prepper scale, you're still going to have gaps. And so I'm not looking forward to anything like that happening, but I see it. I see it happening, and it's really when you feel it in your bones that something is about to happen. And I think that's why people watch, is because they feel it too. I think that's why this whole community is such a tight-knit community, because everybody else says that we're crazy. Everybody else thinks that we're loopy. I'm so tired of people calling this crazy when it's the societal norms that are crazy. It's these people that have insurance on their car, insurance on their house, insurance on everything, but they don't have insurance for food. They have 3 days of food in their stuff. They don't have any kind of any plans for if a natural disaster happens. That's just irresponsibility, in my opinion. I think it's crazy. With this, his quote said, World War III was fast approaching and the Russian invasion of UKR would continue. It comes as a long-term security package for UKR to help end the war. How is it going to end the war? How does UKR, even with all of NATO's help, this is the point, with all of NATO's help, unless NATO directly steps in and literally cremates Russia, and forget about like China not stepping in, Cuba not stepping in, South Africa not stepping in. Nobody steps in. India, their ally, does not step in. Nobody steps in. They actually crush and completely take out Russia. That would assume that none of those other countries stepped in and fought with them. How does Ukraine win? Ukraine has a far inferior military to Russia, and Russia hasn't even used its big stuff yet. And people are debating like, UKR is taking back all of this land. Whatever they're taking back is probably on purpose, and not because I'm rooting for Russia. It's just the real fact that Russia is an extremely powerful military, and whatever they're doing, they're probably mapping this out. This is all strategic. The first 8 months of the war, they didn't even use their M90 tanks. They didn't use jets in Ukraine's airspace. They held all of that back. They didn't use any of their super advanced missiles until they were testing it 6 months in. We're at the very beginning of this. This is what we thought would play out when we talked about a World War III scenario, and people are afraid of it. They to the point where I explained it the other day. If somebody pops out of a trash can and scares you, you get afraid. You're afraid, but what's your first reaction after that? Anger. And I think that's why people push back on this so bad, is because when somebody makes them afraid, it's a primal thing, where you are afraid, and then it's either a fight or flight thing, and you get angry. You punch that guy that pops out of the garbage can because you are angry. My mom used to say, would anyone want to stay alive after a nuke? Gina, I think there's a whole crowd of people that want to see it. I think that it's like a fetish thing. I know people that want to see it. They're prepped for it. They're ready for it, and they want to see an apocalypse. They watch zombie movies constantly. They actually want to see it. I know a lot of people, and I'm not putting them down. I love you guys, but they literally want to see a Mad Max world, and they believe, and it's because they think that in a Mad Max world with none of this structure, that they would be top dog and that they would have whatever they want. I literally know people that think like that they would take over their neighborhood and be alpha male top dog. And they might. the couple of the guys I know, they will be. Craigilicious, thank you, and thank you. Space Troll has subscribed. What's going on, Space Troll? It's getting really hard to write super chats now. Random words, block the message. 95 more subs to 200,000. Click, click, click. Craigilicious, am I about to be at 200,000? I didn't even think it has. I don't think it doesn't even show you between the thousands, and they did that so they can easily hold back. I think it used to show you every single one. So if the subs were being taken or given, whatever, it was easy to see. But now it's not. Yeah, that would be great if you guys would subscribe. The milestones really do. 200,000 is a big deal. And I appreciate every one of you that has been here for years. I would rather stay small at this point. Every time we've had fast growth, you get a bunch of folks in that that are just kind of rude. They don't know how it works. I would appreciate everybody sharing this out with friends and family. But I don't like growing fast. I don't actually like growing fast because it brings in a lot of new people that really don't. They're not used to how we are here. We're positive. We don't push people down, or at least we try not to. And then, I don't know. What do you guys like about the Foogle fam? I think we have something special here, and it's not because of me or Dex. It's because of everybody here. And then traces of explosives were found in a yacht in the Nord Stream sabotage. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Make sure to go over to marfugglenews.com/prep. Thank you, Jamie Peace. I appreciate that. New member. Marfugglenews.com/prep. You can actually get 25-year shelf life food that is sealed in Mylar bags. This is all freeze-dried, so again, it will last over 2 decades. And right now, they have $80 off on a 1-month supply. That is a huge deal because before it was $200 off on a 3-month supply. If you end up using this discount to your advantage, if you did get 3 months, you would actually be getting about $240 off. So this is actually technically the best deal they have ever done, especially if you want to get bulk. This is a really, really great deal. Go to marfugglenews.com/prep. Again, everybody should have at least something. If you can't afford to do something like this, highly recommend you check out our friends list at marfugglenews.com/friends. And you can do stuff yourself. We never say you can't. It is a lot of work. If you have the ability to do this, this is really great. It's very convenient to have food like this that you can put away. But if you work and if you put some effort into it, anybody can prep and anybody can do it. Payday Preps by Alaska Prepper. Survival Living does sort of a payday prep type thing as well. He, in fact, even admits that he used to watch Alaska Preppers payday preps. I think Alaska Prepper's a genius for doing that. Essentially he would take his paycheck every 2 weeks, and then he would take a small amount and get as much as he possibly could with that, and then show people what he did. And I think that's really, really an awesome thing to do. So make sure to go check out Alaska Prepper. He's a good friend of mine. Rudy is a genuine guy. He's a generous guy. He's a very beautiful person inside and out. So make sure to go check him out on our friends list at marfugglenews.com/friends. And again, go to marfugglenews.com/prep if you do want to get yourself some long-term survival food that can last and that will be good in any kind of disaster, whether it be a hurricane, tornado, earthquake, or SHTF. And then traces of explosives were found in the yacht in the Nord Stream sabotage investigation. I don't believe anything that is said around this whole this stream thing. Dex, what did you think when you saw this?
Okay, so what they're trying to insinuate here is that back in March, I think it was German media had reported that 5 men and a woman used a yacht hired by a Ukrainian-owned company in Poland to carry out the event, and that it set off from the German port of Rostock. So what they're saying, and they're not saying it's that yacht, but they're not saying it's not that yacht. They're just not telling us. They're just saying, hey, one of the yachts that they were investigating, they have now claimed to have found evidence of what would be considered underwater explosives, or samples of that were found on that yacht. So is sort of painting a picture to what they reported back in March. You can sort of connect those dots and think, oh, aha, this is what it was. But yeah, I agree. We don't know who really did this. There's been so many stories around this. But if they want to pin it on, some pro UKR group that's not officially UKR, so they can sort of write it all off, and then there is no bad guy. Sounds like they're teeing up the ideal scenario here for that. So therefore, Vlad or Putin can't be mad at UKR or the US or the UK or Germany, and nobody else can be mad either because it's some independent group that happened to do it.
And when they do this, understand that when media say you completely think this is BS, and this is the really big part about mainstream media that you have to understand. In 20 years from now, when our kids are doing essays on this, and they're looking up throughout history, in the history books, they use these as references. And they will put this down as fact. And one thing I think about when I was in high school and I was doing these essays on history, I was so stupid at that point. You think of this stuff as history. Now knowing how much I have seen with my own eyes, like in history, this will be put in there as a footnote in their essay. And they'll say, "Oh, this independent group did this or whatever." If you lived through that time, then you probably obviously know that what most of us think the truth is, which is JB, and maybe they found traces of another substance on that yacht. Who knows? Either way, it's like the history is going to write this down, and this is going to end up in history. All mainstream media is, especially the bigger ones like AP, routers, whatever you want to call it, routers. Either way, this stuff is going to end up in history books. And I wish I knew that back then, because now that I've lived through so many events, including events that I watched live on DLive, 8 different friends and different peers of mine live at the Capitol. It's like events like that I watched, and I was watching multiple angles. I was able to watch in live time 8 different people and know how it goes down in real life. I saw it with my own eyes, and then have my TV on showing a totally different angle. And then this whole thing gets taken and turned into this big, shenanigan. With your heart that that's something's wrong there. But in the history books, how is it going to be wrote down? And I think about when I was in high school, think about history in general, how much of that was absolute BS. Do you think that they just started doing this in the last couple decades? No. Even before, it was easier to do because you only got your news from newspapers or you got it from history books, right? And who wrote those history books? I mean, look at the JFK stuff that just got sealed. Indefinitely, they sealed all of the rest of the information of JFK's thing. It's like, why? It's insane to me. Ukraine is using highly advanced artificial intelligence in its war with Russia. It's out of this world. It's funny they use that, especially with all the talk about aliens right now. It says artificial intelligence is showing up all over the place, and now UKR is using it in its conflict against Russia. UKR has successfully engineered and deployed its unique artificial intelligence platforms. Brett Velovich, a Fox News contributor in UKR, reported that the innovation on the UKR battlefield is so advanced that Western governments struggled to keep pace with it. This sounds like BS. Yeah. Where did they get it from? It says AI has been a crucial factor in UKR's remarkable performance against its larger and ostensibly more potent adversary, Russia. Advanced technology has offered UKR an array of benefits that would otherwise be unreachable. further cementing it, like how they're winning, right? This I believe is a narrative, right? It says UKR's Deputy Ministry of Digital Transformation noted that the country's decision to develop its AI platform has played a crucial role in the approach to the conflict. So what are they talking about here, Dex? Are they talking about like war gaming things out and knowing the future? Or Are they talking about something that can control weapons?
The best I can tell from the limited amount of information they've given out is that they're using it more along the lines of image processing. So understanding images from drones or providing information from imagery from drones that can tell them about and identify and categorize elements for targeting. So much like we think of these futuristic type drones that they can go in and find exactly what they're looking for and then take it out all by themselves. It's a version of that is what they're describing. And for what it's worth, Ukraine did or does probably still have a decent software development community. A lot of companies outsource software development around the world, and that's one of the places. So it's not unfathomable to think that they wouldn't have some brain power available to do this, and maybe even some still there that may be capable of doing this. But it does have a lot of extra adjectives and adverbs here that just make it sound so salacious.
And they're essentially saying that while AI is predominantly known for its applications in large language models like Google's Bard or OpenAI's ChatGPT, computer vision, the AI technology focusing on the interpretation of visual data has proven to be highly advantageous across the myriad industries. What I don't believe is, and a lot of people said Ganda, fake news, that kind of stuff, kind of agree with you. They say that the U.S. is having a hard time catching up with it. Are they going to start painting this narrative that UK are so powerful that the US is going to start saying, "Oh, will you please help us?" Well, if you let us into NATO, we'll protect you with your gear, with your ammo, with your weapons, with your jets, with your tanks. Dex, go ahead.
No, you just hit it. I was going to say the same thing. This is the big bargaining chip. Our military and our AI.
Yeah. We can process pictures like 56K internet. Or that face he did. I can just see him on a call with JB. We're not helping. Ukraine situation report, France officially sending Scalp cruise missiles. So they just sent cluster munitions. Now they're sending, we just sent cluster munitions, which again, if Russia uses bad, if US uses good. And it says French President Emmanuel Macron officially announced that his nation is sending Ukraine Scalp EG air-launched conventionally armed cruise missiles. He made the declaration Tuesday during the NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania. It confirms what we reported in May, that France was planning on sending UKR the long-range missiles, which have a stated range of about 350 miles in their domestic configuration. So I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong for any of the military folks here, can't these be kind of can't they be configured to go longer? That they put like limiters on these things. In fact, previous times, we do know that some of the weapons that UKR got as part of this whole thing in the beginning, they're like, well, we only want to help them defensively. They trust them enough to send them billions of dollars, which end up, turning into 9 sports cars and super mansions and all that with 9 different people right underneath Volodymyr. But we don't trust them enough to give them basically a car that's not limited, right? Did you ever have a friend in high school, their parents like put a limiter on their car so they couldn't drive fast? It's kind of like that. They were like, we'll give you missiles, but they only have like a 50-mile range or something because we don't trust you that you're not going to just shoot this right into Russia, into Moscow, right? Well, now they're giving them long-range stuff. I don't think, but I can't these exact Scalp ones, can't these go longer than 350 miles? Either way, they're giving them long-range missiles now, which was always a no-no in the beginning. Again, it says they can be equipped for significantly less range, around 155 miles, in an export configuration. It says, quote, I have decided to increase deliveries of weapons and equipment to enable the Ukrainians to have the capacity to strike deeply. So understand this. They are now giving them the go-ahead. You can strike, deeply. Are they giving them the go-ahead to strike into Russia? That is the big question right now. And it's looking like it's about to escalate in some sort of fashion, whether it be manipulated or manufactured or whatever it is. This is the next step. And it just keeps going up and up and up. And we're watching it go up in steps. I think this thing's already going. It started. Dex, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. I don't know if they can unlimit them. I got a sneaking suspicion they can, and if there is a way, they'll figure it out. And we'll probably find out about it when we hear some strike happens in Moscow or near it.
And it might be why they were putting anti-air missiles into on the roofs and stuff. All right, let's see here. All right. Crazy Owl says, love the fam and Dex. Been watching since the car videos. Keep up the great work. Crazy Owl, I know you've been here a long time. Every time I see your name, I think of Crazy Glue. Inflation at 3% flags end of emergency. Turning point for the Fed. Dex, you understand this a little bit better than I do. Do you want to explain what they're trying to say here?
Well, they're kind of jumping the gun a little, but they are trying to say that, look, the inflation rate has slid, as they call it, to more than a 2-year low, and that by seeing this continuous pattern, they're suggesting that this is the end of our cost of living emergency that we've been dealing with, of everything just inflating and inflating and inflating, where everything just costs more and more and more. I don't know that it's, I sort of take this one definitely with a grain of salt. I mean, the facts are there, or at least that's the data that's come out and they're telling us. I'm not saying that's not true. It's just whether or not we believe that this is really the end, and like the glory days are right around the corner. I don't think it's that extreme, and they're not necessarily suggesting, we're dancing in the streets and having a good time and spending all of our money now. But these are key indicators, I guess, that they use. And I guess we'll have to pay attention to what the Fed does with interest rates and things like that to see if they actually start, agreeing and bringing things like that back down. Because I think like a home interest rates are well over 7 now. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, I guess it's not that bad. It used to be 18 back in the days. So there have been worse times than we're in now, but certainly this is a good sign. And I think we'd all appreciate seeing our food costs and everything else go back down to at least a normal level. I don't think they'll ever go back down to what they once were before. But we'll, and then we also have to factor in how much of this inflation is true versus is just inflation, or just companies trying to make extra profits because they can. It's like, oh, our costs didn't go up, but everybody else is raising prices. So why don't we jump on the price raising bandwagon? We'll make more money. Nobody needs to know. And that kind of stuff does happen.
Yeah. And since they all had this kind of leeway, because everybody understood that these certain things are happening, when all the supply chain things happen, of course, they did raise the prices on a lot of imports. Like, remember during CV, there was the container shipment debacle where it was usually $5,000 to ship something from overseas. It was like $35,000 for the same container. And it was like, how could prices not go up on something like that? But as far as the fake inflation that happened, there's just so much manipulation in all in the financial, the supply chain area. Like, it's all manipulated. Speaking about manipulation, well, I shouldn't say manipulation yet, because we don't know what this thing is going to do. This is so predictable. We just talked about this last week about how Elon Musk, basically shut it down for AI companies to stop scraping their stuff, and social media companies and every company to stop scraping for the uses to train their AI engines. And everybody goes, well, was he doing that? One, because they were cheating at it and they weren't paying them to use it. Two, Or were he was stopping competitors because he was going to make his own AI, right? And now Elon Musk launches his new company, xAI. Didn't see that one coming. I mean, he's talked about it too. But this is kind of just, it's crazy because he says publicly that he doesn't, he helped start OpenAI. And everybody thought when he bought Twitter that he was buying it so he could use it for AI. I mean, it's so predictable. But then he also said that he thinks that AI should take a pause. Isn't that funny? And now he opens up his own. Maybe he said it needs to take a pause because he wasn't in the game yet. That now it makes me think he wants, him and all these other people are saying, take a pause because he basically wanted to get in the game first. This guy is extremely smart at making money, that's for sure. And whatever this thing is, the X app and how Twitter and everything else, I personally think that Twitter is going to be 50,000 times more giant than it was. There's all this fake stuff around him being hated by half the people and whatever else. They're playing some big game here. And I think, soon something else is going to come of this. I know many people that believe he is the actual Antichrist because of what this is possible, the things that is possible with this new xAI, with the X app, with everything else. Imagine if you can't buy or sell without using the X app or something. Gosh, that would be scary. But it says that he just announced the debut of a new AI company, xAI, with the goal to, quote, understand the true nature of the universe. Dex, that's kind of a crazy mission goal there, to understand the true nature of the universe.
Yeah, that is. I think that was his lofty goal, and he said that before. We've talked about this true nature of the universe. I think he referred to it at one point as Truth GPT as well. Some other things that have happened in the recent past, that sort of lead up to this as reminders. It was reported that I think it was back in April that he had procured thousands of GPU processors from NVIDIA, which obviously you'll need lots of those to build a system to start doing large language models like ChatGPT. And then the cast, or so to speak, you can just type this into your browser, x.ai. Yeah, .ai is a domain extension, kind of like .com. So x.ai will take you to a web page. It doesn't have much there, but it's basically the announcement. But it's got the people, and he's got people there from DeepMind, OpenAI, Google Research, Microsoft Research, Twitter, and Tesla. And a lot of them have worked on a lot of those existing systems that are already in place. So he sounds like he's got some serious brain power behind this potential program or company that he's launching. Let's not forget, he was one of the original founders of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. He just bailed out early because of the way they were going, and he didn't like it, and they didn't want to listen to him.
Didn't have too much control over it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to read what your opinions on xAI and what you think it is. By the way, make sure to drop an M in the chat for the mods. Thank you guys for holding it down in the chat. And then before we move on, I do want to remind you, in fact, there's actually a kind of an extra thing here. If you guys haven't checked out Energy, make sure to go over and do so. If you do want a really amazing backup generator, I would highly recommend looking into solar. There are many, many positives, including you don't have to buy $5 a gallon gas. You don't have to make a whole lot of noise. In fact, these are almost absolutely silent. They're expandable. They're modular. You can edit them over time. You can expand them over time. In fact, the Flex 1500 can be expanded up to 96 batteries. So this could either be a portable unit you take with 2 or 3 batteries and you're set for a camping trip or going to the cabin, whatever it is, or you can actually set this up with an entire wall of batteries if you would like to. This is an extremely powerful tool as far as a prep arsenal. If your power goes out, the ability to be able to have stored power on demand, ready to go, to be able to plug in and just keep going is absolutely amazing. Not to mention they make all sorts of different kinds. Right now, they now have the Flex Tactical. They worked with the Air Force to actually do this. And here's the really unique opportunity, and this isn't investment advice, but again, there is something really cool now. They are actually doing sort of a, what would you call it, Dex? It's not
crowdfunding. They have a crowdfunding campaign where regular consumers can invest in their company. They're selling shares of their stock.
Yeah, and how does that work? So, and this company we were with since kind of the early stages of it. Now they are definitely blowing up. They are one of the best solar generators out there. All of their different models in every part of the market, because there's smaller generators. There's all built-in ones like the X2. There's of course the Tactical, which is the modular system comparable to literally. I think there's only one company that comes close. And then as far as this goes, now they have the Flex Tactical. They're getting Army contracts, the SBIR Phase 2 contract with the U.S. Army. So this is really cool. And now, so if you do end up investing or something like that, wouldn't that mean that if they go private or something, you'll then own a part of that company? And if they go public, they'll turn that into shares?
But no, it means you immediately, if you invest, you own shares. So they're selling them. I can't remember if they're like $1 and some change per share, but I think it's like a minimum $250 purchase. But they also have incentives depending on it, and you can get other things, even discounts. If you want to invest more, you can get a bigger discount, and the discount would obviously stack with ours too. But it's a way for the public, which would be considered non-accredited investors, a way for them to actually be able to invest in a small company that is growing. That's not on the public exchange. Their alternatives are to go to venture capitalists and take that money, which then typically tells them what to do. So this is another alternative that a lot of companies do. A lot of companies go to crowdfunding for a round of raising money. And typically a company like this would raise money because they're in a growth period. They're trying to grow. And we may look at a company like this and say, oh, they got tons of money. Well, actually they don't. They're in the hardware space. There's not a lot of margin in that business. So a company like that, if they get big contracts or they want to grow or they want to expand and they're getting popular, it takes money to invest in all that hardware that is then needed to manufacture and everything. So they need money to grow the company. It's a smart move on their part to raise money. But this is the model they're using for this raise, which is to go, I think it's Startup Engine or one of those crowdfunding websites that they're using that does it. So it's pretty cool. If you want to check it out, it's on their website. All you can do is go to our link. It'll take you to their website. You can learn more about it there if that's your cup of tea. But again, not financial advice, not telling you to invest.
And we're not getting...
we get nothing out of this one.
We're not getting anything. We get a commission if you go buy a generator. But purely this is because... both Dex and I thought this was cool. Energy, I highly believe, because I have tried the one unit that I believe is a really close competitor, and I really do think that this has everything over it. So again, this is cool. Another thing that I saw, and this is just totally something that popped out at me, is these autonomous lawnmowers that I saw, that they're electric lawnmowers. And just from a personal standpoint, they did like a YouTube campaign where they were like, invest in this now. It's about to be big. That almost got me because I could, and sadly, this is what's going to happen is I bet you there won't be, there'll be these companies that just have these automated lawnmowers that go out and do the job. They'll be able to roll to the job, do it, cut the lawn. Everything is stored inside these things. And then it drives away. This is where things are going. It's just absolutely insane. Lithium and electric and all of this stuff is the future, and they're making it that way. They're going to force it. So I guess you can try to ride along with it. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot of really crazy stuff here.
We sure do. Don't go anywhere, folks. Let me give you some of the headlines you can go check out for yourself. If you go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for today's show, or hit that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you to this page where everything we just covered, it's all there. And then you hit the yellow bar called that says overflows. The rest of the story starts off with a whole lot of the political stuff. And there's plenty of minutia being thrown around, but definitely check it out if you're into what's going on with T-Man. If you're into, who's pointing fingers at who. DeSantis is saying, "Hey, there's no way I'm going to run with him, so he will not be his running mate." Of course, keep in mind all the muck that gets thrown around this early in the game. It never. I mean, look at what happened to our current pres and our current VP and what they said about each other, but then look at them, they got together. So I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen here, but look, it's all there. But I will tell you, there's
she
one
literally
interesting
called him
one.
racist. That
Yeah,
the VP called our president racist.
exactly. But look, there's one. I will talk about this one political one. There's Monica Crowley, and it says, "quote unquote," it's pretty clear they know exactly whose sniff it was in the White House. You got to watch that little short video. I think it's Pierce. I'm not everybody's a fan of Pierce. Sometimes he's interesting, sometimes he's not. But it's very interesting the points they're making, and I'll kind of reiterate it now. This is the most secure building in the entire world, and they are not willing to say whose baggie it was. They know. They absolutely 100% know. They knew within 5 minutes whose it was. They know everything that goes on in every square inch of that building. And they even pontificated that if it was any other person in that building, like the former pres, they would have been perp walking the person out the door within like hours of it happening. But here, the White House is saying, yeah, we don't know. And, oh, yeah, they weren't there on Friday, but technically they were there Friday. They just left in the evening. So mincing of words. Very good video, very short, worth watching. Go check it out. Look, lots of other stuff going on. Do have some updates around UKR in here. Things that we didn't cover. So some stuff about the Zaporizhzhia power plant. They're switching one system to hot shutdown from cold shutdown. It's not a scary thing. It's actually something they do, but it's because they don't have boilers to make their own steam. It's kind of, but go read it if you want to learn more about what's happening there. Updates with the storm shadows and the grain deal. That's all there. We do have some additional things happening, like what was going on in the casinos in Vegas, a guy dancing on the poker tables, some other crazy videos in here about a brawl that went down as well. And even Zuckerberg, I think it's the last one here, shows off his ripped physique while training with UFC fighters. So if you're really dying to see what Zuckerberg looks like with his shirt off and, a 6-pack of abs, you can go check it out. It's all right there on our website. That and so much more. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
As far as and then after you see those pictures, just watch out, because he knows your IP. He knows when you've been good. He knows when you've been bad. He's Zuckerberg. Still going. Too long? Probably. All right. It's now time.
You're trying to scare everyone away, aren't you?
That's sorry. I grew up on. I grew up on South Park, and Family Guy introduced the too long. All right, you guys, love you. Dex, thank you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Why did we gain viewers when we did that? That's disturbing. Blue Boy 1968 just watched the Netflix doco Unknown Killer Robots. Scary but worth the watch. At the same time, very scary times we are living in at the moment. I will check it out. The thing about Netflix is now it's like all Bollywood videos. It's all Chinese movies. You can see it happening. You can see the collapse of Netflix. Netflix, they had all of these other companies pull their movies off. Paramount Plus, just name it, MGM Plus, blah, blah, blah Plus, everything Plus, Disney Plus, HBO Max, this and this, that. All of these different apps pulled their movies, and Netflix has like nothing. They do the occasional like 6-film deal with like Adam Sandler or Ryan Reynolds, like a 2-movie thing with The Rock, right? But they just don't have anything anymore. They used to have, like Netflix used to be, it's like if a Netflix even did a show, it was they put their effort in really good shows. Now it's like they've put so much money out and to make so many different kind of niche things that it's just crap. Obviously a lot of people left when they did the Cuties thing. There were shows that my kids watched. I had to get it. And I think we went 3.5 months or something without it. And we ended up getting it. And it like fell off. I remember going, and everything on Netflix is just crap now. Now I would cancel it just because there's nothing on it. It's so horrid. Stranger Things, and it takes way too long for them to get. They should just do like 3 seasons a year of the good stuff and then just dump half of their stuff. Before, you used to have to use a VPN to see all of the other world stuff. Now all of the other world and country movies is all they have. So now if you are an American user, you're seeing like, Norwegian films, which actually I like, but the Chinese films, the Indian films, all of these films are now on their top 10 in their main thing because they are literally scratching to try to keep people there, and they're basically showing you everything they got. They're literally showing you all their cards. Dex, thank you so much. Yeah, and then Prime came along. All these other companies, now there's nothing on Netflix except for this guy. All right, thank you, Dex. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, be safe. Thank you to the mods dropping them in the chat right now. Wages, I can try to call you right after the show if you're still up. And then thank you guys, appreciate you. Ilea, good luck with your night gazing. And thank you everybody else that popped in. Thank you Bones and Rip Curl for being here this week. Thank you Jammer and Chance and all of our other wonderful mods. Hello to Lisa R. Hall, wherever you are. Love you. And be safe, be prepared, and marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. I'm just kidding. It's a shoutro. It's where I say thank you to the people that matter most, you guys. And again, thank you. It looks like top supporter tonight is Kagan's Looking Glass and Nana of Montana. Thank you, both of you. I appreciate you. And over on D Live, thank you, and thank you to Yobi, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Beer Juice, Kiki Gray, and of course the wonderful One-Up B, Zanado, and of course Raging Boomer and Beer Juice and Scoobs. Scooby-Doo Do-Right. Go check them out on D Live. The show actually continues over on Jams. If the show cuts off, it should bring you over there. But if not, again, you can also go subscribe there if you like my horrible music. Kagan's Looking Glass. Bum, dum, dum. Up, up, down, looking glass, yum, 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 bum, 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 bum. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass, dun, 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 dun. Kagan's looking glass. Hey, on the flight, on the flight, on the road, it's on the on a good night. I'm on the, hey, on the, I'm on the, yeah, on the, David on the, day, 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 down, bum, David on the, bum, bum, David on the, bum, David on the, day, bum, no, David on the, day, David on the, day, David on the, day, David on the, day, Honda,